We're going to call these the Let's Talk sessions. The subject matter that we're going to discuss has been based upon a few of the questions that have been asked by me about practicing, how to lengthen the concepts mentally for soloing, how to comprehend all this stuff. And before we go any further, let's understand that there are people that have studied this to such a degree that can tell you a whole lot more based upon the exactness of musical notation, theory, modes of scales, and things I simply don't care about. And that's the truth of the matter. So if you were looking to get that from me, there is so much information through the blessing of technology here on the internet that you can absolutely garnish from literally masters who are giving that information away. But for me, it's never been practical. It's been something that I pursued to a small degree when I was younger. Got around a lot of brilliant musical minds, people that would go on and change the world of music in some cases, in the world that they would pursue. People like Mark O'Connor, who's considered to be, by music historians, maybe one of the greatest musicians of the century. There are so many musical minds out there that can offer you more than I can. So understand what I'm about to tell you is based upon my point of view, based on my experiences. I'm 56 years old. I started playing professionally at the age of 7 in bands with men, getting paid to play music 4 sets a night, fiddle. Not in my little family band, but actually in bands playing music and expected to participate at a high level. Obviously, prior to that, I had the blessing of starting to play music when I was just around 2.5 years old on the ukulele. That migrated to a fiddle to guitar, and here we are today. A lot of stuff in between. My journeys of music, or the journey that music has given to me, has allowed my experiences to have incredible moments with world-renowned musicians, artists that are beyond the words that I have to describe the importance and the impact it has on me. So I have a lot of benefit through association with other people that I've played with or around, and of course being in Nashville, Tennessee since 1981, 82 has afforded me many opportunities that a lot of folks that are watching this video might not ever have, just due to geographical location. So there's a lot of things that influence us, isn't there, on why we decide to play the kind of music we play. So on this sit and talk, let's talk session, we're going to talk on those two things. What influences you, and then what application you have to use the influence that you're using or that you're influenced by. An example of that would be if you love Merle Haggard music and you listen to Roy Nichols, yet you play in a heavy metal band, well, you can listen to all the Haggard you want to that influences you, but yet you have no application for it. So when you go to apply Merle Haggard into the heavy metal realm, probably that's not going to get you much of a musical return that you might want. Should you consider that blend? Well, why not? Now, a lot of people don't realize that James Hetfield is of Metallica, loves Hank Williams and the Drifting Cowboys, of which I had the pleasure of being a member of that band in those later years with those two original members, Don Helms and Jerry Rivers, and also had the pleasure of meeting James Hetfield of Metallica and spending a little time with him, Lars, and this goes back as far as Jason Newsted. Anybody who's a Metallica fan, Jason was the second bass player after the gentleman passed away in that terrible crash there abroad, and I've just lost his name. Anyway, with that said, when you are influenced by something and you have application to use it, well, then your time that you would practice trying to play like something and then applying it later, if I'm playing Merle Haggard stuff at the house and I go play in a VFW later that weekend and play some Merle Haggard, well, now we've got the attainment of what we learned being applied, and therefore being appreciated from not just the people who've listened to it, but by the person who's taken the time to spend the time doing this. And in my situation, I'm influenced by so many things that I don't use or could not use in many of the realms of music that I performed in, because the basic foundation of music I play, the umbrella, has been country music since the 70s. Bluegrass infused in there, a little bit of old time rock and roll, Chuck Berry, the Beatles, Skynyrd, and then get into a little bit of the 80s stuff. But after that, really, I don't play any 90s rock and roll to any kind of degree that is a major impact of what I do. I do know some 90s tunes, some Collective Soul, Nirvana tunes. I know a couple of those just by being an entertainer. Now, at this stage of my life here in the Florida Keys, which you're looking at behind me, I've been down here, this is my 9th year, and in those 9 years, I've played over 1,000 shows. Now, prior to those 9 years, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, working on sessions, working for as a road musician, and those had constraints. You working on the road for somebody, as a guitar player for the Drifting Cowboys, and being influenced by Eddie Van Halen, well, those two things can't be applied very well, right? Think about that. I'm sitting there trying to learn Hot for Teacher, and then during the weekend, in Baraboo, Wisconsin, playing Move It On Over by Hank Williams with the two guys that played with Hank. And I've received a lot of lessons from those legendary foundational people, the Owen Bradleys. If you don't know that name, please look it up. Chet Atkins, if you don't know that name, look it up. Don Helms, Jerry Rivers, and a host of others. Excuse me. That I was fortunate because of proximity and location, but also I was providing a service to them that they could rely upon. And what they were needing me to do was to make sure I delivered what they wanted, not necessarily what I wanted. So therefore, if you don't have the application for what influences you, well, then there can be a disconnect with that. And if you are a person who just loves to play and you are just going to apply it for yourself whenever you decide you want to, then you have the freedom, the most freedom of anybody. You're only entertaining yourself. It only matters to you. But as soon as you add a second person to this that has to be appeased, pleased, entertained, whatever it might be, well, now you have to consider the time that you spend being influenced, that when you apply it, does it achieve those for the second person, or therefore the third person, the fourth person, and so on. With that said, having the ability today, all these years later, to start taking a lot of the influences that I never used before and started applying them to my application, because now I'm playing 3-hour shows, 4-hour shows. That's the Coconut Cowboy. That's how I perform down here under that moniker. And over 1,000 shows. And my average show is 3+ hours. The other day I played 5 hours and 15 minutes straight. Didn't need to. I got to, because there were people still there after all that time for a big festival, and I just didn't want to leave. My normal show, Gilbert's on Thursday, is 5 to 9, and I'll take the stage, and I won't come off that stage. I don't take a break. It's nonstop. It seems like 15 minutes to me. During that time, there's all this musical journey of up and down and requests of what one person wants to hear. Maybe you get a Jimmy Buffett fan over here, which would be an obvious thing when you come to the keys, but then all of a sudden you turn around and somebody wants to hear Van Morrison, or somebody wants to hear Skinner, or somebody wants to hear the Allman Brothers, or somebody wants to hear Nirvana, or somebody wants to hear Nine Inch Nails, or somebody Johnny Cash, or somebody wants to hear Dolly Parton, or somebody wants to hear. And all of a sudden you get a lot of people trying to influence you right there. And as an entertainer, I don't want to say the word no. So I have learned to throw a net over some of the bigger names in the genres that I didn't necessarily spend a lot of time listening to or absorbing or being influenced by, so I could return a yes to the person I'm trying to entertain. It's very important as an entertainer to do that. But because of the length of the shows that I play, 3+ hours, 4 hours, there's a lot of times now that I get to use a lot of influence into my application. So I can try to put a little Eddie Van Halen into my playing of a Merle Haggard song. Maybe that's a bad example, but my point is, there's sometimes I'm playing for a whole bunch of people, and there's sometimes I'm playing for nobody. But I'm always playing for me. So I'm always the common denominator. And I don't want to be stagnant and stale with me. And if you spend 5 hours learning a Brent Mason 10-second lick and you have no application for it, well, then where is the musical joy in that? The fact that you've achieved a legendary guitar player's lick? Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I think it is. I've done it. But if the application could also benefit the listener with you being part of that listening realm, well, at some point when you start learning everybody's lick and you invest so much time, your influences, you invest so much time, and then the application that you apply it to starts turning up stale, well, it's time to learn a different way of thinking. So for me, bottom line, to wrap this up, influence and application has a lot to do with how you interpret the music that goes through your mind. Are you spending 5 hours trying to learn a 10-second lick? Are you spending 5 months trying to learn a 10-second lick? And when you finally get that lick, you sit on the couch and do it, nothing wrong with that. And are you happy? And if you are, that's the bottom line. But if I spend 5 hours and learn a 10-second lick, I still have 3 hours, 59 minutes and 50 seconds to play. So I'm not telling you it's a waste of time, but there's a whole lot of time I got to cover in a different form, because I can't just keep relying upon that one little influence or that one little lick to provide entertainment for the rest of the evening time. So we'll talk about application and the length of time of applying something in the learning process of music on the next Hey Let's Sit and Talk. Hope you've enjoyed this. I don't know that this is going to go over well with a bunch of people, but I've had this question about how I learn music, and there's only one way to share it, and that to type this out would not make any sense to me. So for any one person who's made it this far, I hope you get something out of this. If you have any questions, please let me know. But no doubt, influence and application plays a big role. What influences you, you're going to spend your time doing. Once you go to do that and you go to apply it, there's going to be a result, whether it's self-satisfaction or self-satisfaction plus the satisfaction of others, which is I'm in that business. So I have to satisfy those that I play for. But I'm also playing for me too. So I don't want to be stale with me. So we'll talk about that next level of how to enhance what influences you within the application that you might want to put it towards. Thank you for spending some time with me, and God bless you. We'll look forward to talking sometime soon. Bye-bye.